On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Vulgar Display of Power by Pant-Era. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal. We like to talk about it. And today we're going to be talking about an album from 1992, Vulgar Display of Power by Pant-Era, sort of the second album in a new era for Pant-Era.
Really their sixth album.
As part of the greater Pant-Era.
Pant-Era. Before they were in the shirt era.
Yeah.
That was the first
They moved on to the Pant-Era.
Yeah, or the hair era. Now they're in the Pant-Era.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pant-Era has an interesting history as a band in that like the musical style that everybody associates with them is not what they started out as, and in fact they played a very different style of music for quite a long time before they switched over to the style we all recognize them for, and the style they kind of pioneered or at least vastly popularized. Right. I don't know if groove metal was really a thing before Pant-Era took off.
I mean,
it was just kind of like, listening to this, it just feels like a outgrowth of thrash at the time.
Right. And it was. It certainly was. And then it evolved and became sort of what it is.
And I think like groove doesn't really happen without a band like Pant-Era that has the influences they do, in the sense that like when I think of groove metal, it is kind of like the aggression and the aesthetic of thrash metal with the sort of kind of the style that you get in glam metal, not the physical style, not the visual style, right? But just the theatricality is not quite the right word for it, but the sort of flashiness, the kind of showiness, the propensity for hooks. So, there's a lot of groove metal that relies on being catchy. Like Walk is the fucking catchiest metal song ever written. Groove metal, I think one could easily describe it as being catchy. And I think that comes from being sort of a weird fusion of glam metal as it was dying. As it lay, gasping for air on the floor, and groove metal stands over it and absorbs its power or something like a cutscene from a video game. This is a mid boss cutscene from a Dark Souls game. It's like Ornstein and Smo.
Well, that's really all music is. If you really think about it, I mean, there's no such thing as a genesis of music. I mean, unless you're like, I the band Genesis.
Other than the first, proto-human that hit
a thing with a stick.
Yeah. And then went, hey, that sounds kind of nice.
Right. And then somebody built on that.
And somebody was like, what if I tapped this stick on this rock?
Right. Yeah.
In time.
And then other people did that as well. And then a couple of years later, Pant-Era.
Yeah. Only a few years later, we have Pant-Era in 1983.
Right.
We'll talk more about Pant-Era in a bit. First, we like to chat. We like to catch up. We like to talk about stuff going on in our lives.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
I don't know what this voice is.
So on Monday, my youngest child, the youngest boy, and I are going to be Kratos and Atreus
for the
Halloweens. So that means I've decided. I looked at costumes.
You've got a couple of days to get in shape.
I don't know. See, I'm going to be from God of War 7. after I've let myself go a bit.
Retired Ginger Kratos.
Right. Well, I'm going to shave my head. I'm going to darken the beard.
Bits. You still got some bits in the beard.
I'm black. I have mascara for the beard.
There you go.
That's what I'm going to do with that. And then of course I got some armor. And then I realized at this point, because I wait till the last minute with absolutely fucking everything, I didn't get something that would have covered me. So, I mean, I guess I still could, but it wouldn't be realistic enough at this point to look like the costume that I was going for. So I'm going to be walking around on October 31st in North Dakota, mostly shirtless.
I talked to you about this the other day.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're really going to do that?
Yeah,
like,
I got no problem with that.
Because like I suggested to you, you could get one of those fake padded, kind of crappy looking muscle suits. And that will probably keep you warm. But you're like, nah, I'll be fine.
I will be fine.
Tuesday morning, you are going to be in the hospital with hypothermia.
Nah.
You're going to be blue in the face. You're going to be freezing to death like you just spent a night on a floating door in the North Atlantic. And you had sacrificed, what's his name?
Jack?
Yeah, but what's the actor's name?
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
What has he done lately?
The
last thing I can remember him being in is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that's like a good 3-4 years ago at this point.
I don't know. I mean, he just turned 48. So, I mean,
yeah,
he should be ready to retire by now.
I can't remember. The only thing his name has been in the news for recently is him breaking up with his 23-year-old girlfriend or whatever the hell it was. And all the people joking that she got too old.
Right. She aged out of the program.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've heard about him lately.
Oh, he was in a movie called Titanic?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have heard of that. I have heard of that movie. I don't know if many other people watched it.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know if Leonardo DiCaprio's really done anything lately.
I'm looking at his IMDb page here, and man, where are filmography? All filmography. He hasn't done anything in quite a while.
Yeah, it's been like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and that was it. I guess maybe he's decided he's only working with Tarantino these days. He won't work with anybody else. Only Tarantino.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was 2019. He did Killers of the Flower Moon here recently.
Oh, he did that movie Don't Look Up, didn't he?
Don't Look Up. Yeah,
that is pretty recent.
Don't Look Up. That was.
I think I forget about that because he's not playing the typical DiCaprio type character.
I want to see that movie too. I haven't seen it.
He's playing like a nerd.
Everybody says it's a good movie.
Yeah, I've heard it was all right.
I haven't watched it.
I've heard it was decent. But yeah, because I think I forget about him because he doesn't look like he usually looks. He's got, a beard and he's just like a guy.
Right.
Instead of, a Leonardo DiCaprio character.
Right.
And it's like a comedy instead of a big, huge character drama or whatever. So,
the first movie I ever saw him, and it might have been his first movie, was What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
I think that was his first movie.
Is that his first movie?
I'm fairly sure it was.
That's the one I remember.
Or at the very least, quite close to his first movie.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. That was a weird tangent about Leonardo DiCaprio.
How did we get to Leo DiCaprio?
I don't remember.
Because
you're going to be freezing to you're going to freeze to death. Right. You're going to die.
I'm going to be fine. We're going to be outside for 2 hours tops.
Yeah, but that's a while when it's 40 degrees. And
not for me.
You don't necessarily know how windy it's going to be. That's a while in North Dakota.
Honestly, I don't really mind. It's fine. I've
like I said, I think there's something wrong with your nerve endings. If the temperature doesn't bother you.
I know that the actual issue goes far deeper than that. It's way more horrible.
If the temperature doesn't bother you, it's not because that you can withstand it. It's because there's something wrong with your body because it's not going, hey, go inside, go inside, go inside, go inside. You're going to die.
Get your hand
Your
out.
nerves are going like, that's fine. as your cells slowly burst from the ice crystals forming inside them.
I feel like this is a bit of a dramatic representation of what Monday night is going to be like.
That's what happens when your flesh freezes.
Sure, but it's going to be not freezing out. It's going to be above freezing.
You don't know that. Its weather might change. You can't rely on those damn meteorologists on the TV. They always get it wrong. They should do a forecast on what it's not going to be like, and then they might get it right sometimes. You know, hey, if there are people out there, you ever notice how the weatherman, they don't get the forecast right ever? That's an observation that I've had that's completely original. No one's ever thought of that before.
Hey, who else hates flying?
You notice the food on the airplanes is pretty bad? I've noticed that, and I would like to talk about it.
I actually had a good meal the last time I flew.
I didn't consume anything the last time that I flew. I attempted to sleep. Completely and totally failed, but
on the way back from Vegas.
Well, both on the way, on both flights. Mm-hmm. I couldn't think of the correct terms. Mm-hmm. On both flights, I first going there, I drank no water in like the 3 hours leading up to it.
So you felt like absolute shit.
Yeah, I didn't want to have to get up at any point to go to the bathroom on the airplane because there is a reasonable chance that I might desperately have to go to the bathroom at a part of the flight when I'm not allowed to go to the bathroom. And that would be bad. Like, I'm capable of holding it, but and I'm not saying that I am prone to having to piss really, really, really bad, but also I have lived by myself with a bathroom within like,
pissing distance.
Yeah, within pissing distance, like very close by for a long time. Like if, when you have like children or other people in your house, I feel like you can build up a little bit more of a tolerance and you get better at holding in your piss because the bathrooms are constantly occupied. That hasn't been my experience for quite a long time. So I'm not good at holding my pee no more.
You must be fun on road trips.
It is like the vast majority of the road trips that I have taken recently have been me by myself. And I do the same thing I did when I was on the plane.
Don't drink any
I dehydrate myself for a good few hours before I leave.
Really?
Because I don't like having to stop a bunch of times. And
see, that's my favorite thing to do on a road trip.
Is stop at rest stops?
Well, I mean, it's to just drink a lot.
Of water, right?
Yeah, water.
Of pop?
Mountain Dew.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Mountain Dew. Mm-hmm. The green drink we all like.
Oh, yeah. The Pepsi product.
Yeah, it's green.
Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Why are you saying it weird? You keep on saying it all suspicious.
You know, my grandfather actually gave me that speech one time we were going through the Ozarks.
Okay.
We were driving through, just him and me. I can't remember where we were going. But he said, "Now, and I know you like to drink that Mountain Dew. When we're going through the mountains, I need you to be real careful how you ask for that."
Depending upon what you say, they might give you something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
The feds will get mad.
Them revenuers.
Yeah, I try to stop as few times as possible, and in order to facilitate that, I drink less water.
I would rather not feel dehydrated. To me is one of the worst feelings in the world.
See, but I am so hydrated most of the time that if I go a few hours without water, I'm usually all right.
All right.
I don't get like instantly dehydrated because I'm operating at a pretty high level most of the time. The last couple of days, I feel like I've been doing shitty. I haven't been drinking enough water the last couple of days for some reason, but I'm constantly fucking like I'm never parted from a giant 64-ounce flask.
Always has Always has something in his flask.
Yep.
Always.
Just water.
Just water.
It's just water.
It's never Mountain Dew.
It's never but now I'm thinking if this was full of Mountain Dew, like the pop.
Yeah.
And that is, I do know a person who would have done that when we were in college. And it was insane.
You know what dawns on me? I mean, we do our D&D sessions on Sunday.
Yeah.
I only ever put like a whole tray of ice and as much water as I can fit in there.
Yeah.
To bring over to D&D, because I have a 64 ouncer. That's what mine is.
It's like this, but yours is a Gatorade bottle.
But why don't I ever like put like a 2-liter Mountain Dew in there?
That would be so bad for
or
you.
just purely a liter of rum.
As you're pouring the 2 liters of Mountain Dew in there, your kidneys are inside going, please, no.
Please don't.
Please,
don't.
Please. I beg you.
Or like when I used to stop on the way to Del Blackjack, I was done at 1 a.m. and I said, you know what? I'm just going to have one drink and go to bed. And then stop into 7-Eleven and I get the ultra big gulp.
Oh,
it was,
God.
1.5 liters of Dr. Pepper.
Oh, Jesus.
Which I'd sucked down about a quarter of the way on the way home and then put Beam in the rest of it. And I'm like, just one. I'll be good.
Just one and I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Be good to go to bed. The guy that I knew in college would show up to D&D at my apartment and he would have a 2-liter of, I think it was Diet Mountain Dew.
Oh, God.
Maybe it was. I can't accurately recall. He might have brought 2 with him one time. To his credit, he's a gigantic dude. Like he's like 6'6", and like quite a broad build. Like he's a massive dude. But still, it was like, good God, Travis, your kidneys, just so much Mountain Dew. I remember one night the Lutheran Church youth group that I was in, when we were in 8th grade, we had a lock-in at the church and we had so much pop and I drank like a 2-liter of Mountain Dew. And I think at like 2 a.m, I felt like my kidneys were going to explode. I was genuinely in a lot of pain.
Wow.
Like it was like something was wrong in my urinary tract. And I was like, this is bad.
I'm going to put out the cigarette and go into the bathroom.
You're smoking in the basement. A bunch of 8th graders smoking in the basement of the church
with their kidneys failing
from drinking too much sugary beverages.
Who was the comedian that talked about being some girl talked him into going to one of those Christian ministries lockdowns, and when he was there and he's like, he realized halfway through the night, this is not where I belong. And he started to panic and he's like, my God, we're locked in. What the fuck do I do? And then after a while, he tries the door and realizes, wait a minute.
That's just a figure of speech.
Locks on buildings are on the inside.
And it is also just a figure of speech,
right? For
the most part, it's like, yeah, if you want to go home, you can go home,
right?
Like, unless it's some really intense sort of thing. But this was all. We were also 8th graders, so it was a different sort of thing than if it would be. Was the story about when he was like a teenager, or as I was gonna say, like, do adults do that too? Because that's really fucking weird.
That would be weird.
But I don't know. There's if it was some sort of weird like evangelical thing, because I wouldn't put it past certain like bizarre evangelical churches to do weird shit like that. It's like,
who knows?
We're having an adult overnight lockdown.
Yeah. Why are we putting all our keys in this bowl?
Now that church. Now that one.
Yeah.
That's what it is at the Church of Satan. Yeah. That's what their overnight lockdowns are. Or your local Philema temple. That's what they're doing. They are having adult lock-ins, and they are adult lock-ins.
Right. It smells like ass and cocoa butter in that room.
Here's your cocaine. Have some fun.
Pick an ass.
Get the lewds. Speaking of DiCaprio.
Yeah. Oh God, I haven't watched that movie in a while.
But yeah, that would be. Anyway. I can't think of anything else to talk about. You want to talk about Pant-Era more?
Sure, why not?
So Pant-Era is from Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the Cowboys from Hell. They originated in Arlington, Texas. And for a good 7 years or so, they were a glam metal band.
Sure. As was popular at that time.
It was the style at the time.
We were an onion on our belt.
They were a glam metal band to start out with. Do you have any more awareness of like how popular they were as a glam metal band?
They were not. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, you could only buy their albums retroactively once they became
a big thing.
Once it became a big thing, you could like there was a place where you couldn't go to a store and buy them.
Yeah,
I knew at one point friends who had them. He was like, "Have you ever listened to this shit? What the fuck is this?" It's Pant-Era, man.
I believe I've heard like one of their songs from that period. And I mean, look, it's still fucking Dimebag.
Yeah, I mean,
like the guitar playing is still great.
All the instrumentation is fantastic because they are, I mean, great musicians.
Yeah, it's still fucking Pant-Era, but just playing a completely different genre and for the most part without Phil.
It's a bit cringy.
That's just glam metal, though.
Yeah, sure.
All glam metal's a bit cringy.
Right.
It just kind of depends on how good the rest of it is to overwhelm the inherent. At least as a 26-year-old looking back and watching anything to do with glam metal, I go, ugh. You know, I don't have any personal memories of having fun at that time because I wasn't alive.
Because I know for a fact that there's a lot of bands that I have on cassette somewhere in a drawer. I know that if I hadn't heard them at the time, listening to them now would have no value. and I put them in and listen to it again and go,
yeah. Yeah, this isn't what I remember.
Right.
But I think all glam metal is kind of inherently cringy.
Right.
It's just there's some of it where, the rest of it is so fucking awesome that you get over it.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of great glam bands.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But there's a lot that are not.
Yes. And apparently Pant-Era was in the latter category.
Right.
Because nobody really gave a shit about Pant-Era until 1990. A little album called Cowboys from Hell comes out.
Right. With
their, at the time, relatively new vocalist. They had Phil Anselmo for their last album as a glam metal band that was called, I believe, was it just called Power? Or was it called Power Metal? I can't remember. Let me look back down on their discography. Yeah, it was called Power Metal. And it was their first album with Phil, and I haven't listened to any of it, but my understanding is you wouldn't believe it's Phil Anselmo, having listened to anything else he's ever done, because he, sang in the glam metal style, which is the opposite of what he would come to do on Pant-Era. But do we want to talk a little bit about Phil Anselmo just out the gate?
I have no problem with that.
The man's, by all accounts, an unpleasant human being who's probably rather racist.
I feel like it with the elements were always there. There was a seed in him, like probably all along. But I feel like as he got older, I feel like that blossomed.
It just got worse and worse at hiding it.
Right, because I mean, toward the end of this band, I mean, everybody was just terrified of Phil.
Yeah, he's not only does he seem to have some unpleasant, beliefs about people who aren't white.
He's angry,
but he's also just an asshole.
Yeah. They couldn't change the set. They'd be like, we wanted to do something different here, and it'd be cool. Well, who's going to tell Phil? You know what? Never mind.
Let's just keep doing what we're doing. Which that sucks when you've got someone who's also like so integral into the image of the band. That is just unpleasant to have around. I mean, there's been plenty of other bands who have dealt with situations like that.
Lots of bands like that. Most of the great ones.
Yeah. I mean, there is the whole thing about creative tension and that sort of thing. It's honestly kind of bullshit. I think for every band where all the band members hated each other or just hated one member of the band a lot, that was successful, there's 40 of them that fucking failed.
Right.
And then there are 10 other bands where the people are perfectly professional and get along just fine,
we're fine.
that are also successful. But everyone remembers fucking Fleetwood Mac.
Sure.
And they all hated each other.
There's never any internal problems with Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, no, everybody in Fleetwood Mac got along perfectly at all times.
Yeah.
And to this day, all of them are friends and love each other.
Right. None of them have had minor plastic surgery because cocaine ate their face.
That shouldn't be funny, but it is.
Yeah, well,
Phil just, is kind of legendarily an asshole.
Right.
And has continued to be. There was an incident in 2016 that I remember hearing about at the time where he was drunk and then got on stage. This was at Dime Bash, by the way, which was a tribute to Dimebag Darrell, who had passed away.
Right.
Who was killed.
2004 he died.
Yeah, he was murdered.
On stage.
But
playing for Damage Plan.
And Phil gets up there and he yells white power out into the stage.
He does a little Nazi salute kind of thing.
And everybody was just like, yeah, no, that's Phil Anselmo. He's a racist. We've been saying this for a while. And then Phil did a whole apology thing. Just everybody knows that's not what I'm like. And it's like, no, everybody knows that's what you're like.
Yeah,
Phil.
we saw.
Fucking, who's the guy from Machine Head? Rob Flynn.
Yeah, did a long video about it.
About his
not cool, Phil.
experiences.
Yeah.
As a fellow groove metal musician with Phil Anselmo. Yeah, so that's just a little preface about Phil Anselmo. Pant-Era is still generally a pretty, they're an important band. The music is pretty good. Although I guess we'll talk more about that now. How do you how long had it been since you'd revisited this album?
It had been a while. I hadn't listened to it in a few years actually. I hadn't, for some reason, it hadn't dawned on me to listen to it. I mean, it's something that I'd heard so many times. And the weird thing is I've heard the first half of it probably 100 times more than I've heard the second half of it.
Is there a reason for that?
Because all those songs, just wherever you go, they were ubiquitous. I mean, you go and you go into a friend's house and Walk is playing, or you go in Mouth for War is playing. But the last half of the album was not as popular, as prevalent.
Yeah.
And so listening to the second half of the album was more
refreshing
enjoyable.
For you. Because looking at just Spotify plays for the first roughly the first half of the album, Mouth for War 45 million, A New Level 25 million, Walk, take a guess for how many it is for Walk.
75 million.
277 million.
277 million.
34 million for fucking Hostile. This Love is 43. And then we've got, for the rest of the album, 11, 8, 9, 7, 7. And then Hollow has 28 million streams.
Yeah.
Hollow kind of picks back up there.
That's a different song.
It is. There are a couple of those tracks that I was not expecting to hear. And when I was listening to it, I was hearing so many bits and pieces. And I said this to you earlier today. I was hearing so many bits and pieces of music that I really liked when I was 17.
Sure.
There's bits and pieces of Five Finger Death Punch that I hear. There's bits and pieces. There's actually a lot of Avenged Sevenfold that I hear. And then I wasn't much of a Slipknot fan, but definitely I hear Slipknot as well. Both in the instrumentation, songwriting conventions, and also just in the way that Phil tends to sing, both when he does, the more guttural sort of screams and kind of thrash metal yells that he does, and then when he is actually properly singing, it reminds me so much of what I had heard from those bands at the time. And that's because they all, are roughly the same age. And all grew up listening to Pant-Era.
Sure.
the amount of influence that Pant-Era has over a lot of the music that I listened to at the time and still listen to is immeasurable. Like, I also was thinking of All That Remains earlier today, which is a metalcore band, and I'm sure some influence on like Killswitch Engage and that sort of thing. Like, like I said, a lot of bands that I really liked when I was 17, 18 were all extremely heavily influenced by this band. And I'm sure if I had bothered to go back and listen to this when I was 17, I probably would have loved it.
Sure.
I liked it as it was, although there was always a specter of Phil Anselmo hanging over it, and me like scrutinizing every lyric and being like, that's kind of a weird thing to say. That's kind of like, I mean, it is. I don't know if anyone who listens to metal is not aware how macho Pant-Era is. Like, this band is so macho and hyper masculine that it comes off as kind of projecting. But that was just a lot of metal, and still is a lot of metal. It's just kind of macho projecting. I try to gravitate towards stuff that doesn't feel that way, but I think it's kind of inevitable. But yeah, I mean, I by no means did I dislike this album, although there is one thing that I will say, and I talked to you about this earlier today as well, is there is a thing that Phil Anselmo does. I'm sure he was not the first person to ever do this. But
he popularized the thing.
Absolutely popularized a thing, which I hate, and every time it pops up is when Phil starts going, and now I'm going to talk like this in the song. And we're going to keep on doing this for a while.
I'd kill myself for you.
I'll periodically come back to this.
I'd kill you for myself.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Like, there's so many other bands I've listened to where they do something like that, and I don't like that voice, that you know, fry, the vocal fry down there. I don't care for it, and it kind of ruins an otherwise quite good cattle decapitation song off of Anthropocene Extinction. I can't remember the exact song it is at the moment, but it's otherwise a very good Anthropocene, cattle decapitation song off of that album. But it's got fucking Phil Anselmo at the start, and I'm just like,
come on.
That was a year before the white power thing happened. So like, I would feel so bad if that had if that album had come out and then a week later Phil's up on stage doing that. It's he absolutely popularized that, and I've never liked it. Anytime, it's never been good. Every time I hear someone do that, I'm just like, just stop it. Just do it regular, or just use your normal voice. I don't care if your normal voice sounds like this. This is what I actually sound like when I'm not doing brutal death growls. There are definitely some metal vocalists that are like that.
There are. I love that when you're at it. It's just the most brutal metal, and the all right,
stage banter.
Okay, yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks for coming out, Omaha.
Omaha.
Yeah.
I don't know why Omaha is a funny city to me. Because it's not a small city. It's a large city.
It has arguably America's best zoo in it.
And it's just like, for whatever reason, Omaha is like completely and utterly forgettable. Yeah. It's more forgettable than Fargo. In the sense that at least Fargo has a fucking movie named after it.
Now, there used to be a TV series named after Omaha that I used to watch when I was a kid.
It's true. There is also the Fargo TV series.
Right.
That is apparently very good. But maybe I'm, because we're from here, I'm overinflating where North Dakota sits in the national consciousness. But I feel like people would remember Fargo before they remember Omaha. I don't know why.
Maybe. I don't know that you're right about that.
I don't think I am, but there's just a feeling I can't get over of Omaha being utterly and completely forgettable for some reason. out of all the Midwestern cities.
I stayed there for a week, and when my dad was in the Air Force, we had to go down there. I don't know if just the whole family stayed in a hotel by the base. And I remember one night watching TV, and it was, thanks for tuning in. This is the news at 6. A man today walked into a grocery store and had tightness in his chest. He believed he was having a heart attack. It turned out it was just a false alarm. Newsworthy. That's the breaking story. That's headline.
I think I understand what part of the reason why it's because I don't know fucking anything about Nebraska. You never hear about anything that happens in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Like you never hear a goddamn thing about Nebraska. And like, at least we're in oil country up here. Nebraska's just agriculture. That's it.
Right.
It's just a Great Plains state. Farming is all there is. I don't think Nebraska's got anything else going for it.
I mean, I've stayed a lot of places in Nebraska, but you're right. I don't know what industry was in any of those.
It's all just corn. It's nothing but corn. And like, Kansas, that's most of Kansas, but Kansas has Kansas City.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is a huge cultural center. But like Nebraska, it's just kind of empty. South Dakota's got the Black Hills and everything. North Dakota, we got the
Badlands.
Yeah, we got the Badlands. We got the oil field and everything that has made us relevant recently.
And we've got Velva.
And we've got Velva.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about Velva.
And it's funny, I'm joking about Velva. What do you think about it? One of the nation's, say top 30 snacks.
Yeah, no, Dots
originates
Pretzels.
In Velva, yeah.
Dots Pretzels, which I still refuse. They're so good, but I haven't gotten over the way that the Velva factory treated me for their hiring ads.
Oh.
Just
that soured you
earlier this year. It was just like anything associated with that name. Anytime it would come up at work, I'd just be like, "Come on, not again!" So frustrating, but they're good pretzels.
They're great. Yeah,
they're very good pretzels.
Yeah.
I'll probably get over it by Christmas because there will be a lot of those present at Christmas because there's got to be,
and there's always some of them covered in some degree of chocolate.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Pant-Era.
Speaking of
chocolate covered pretzels, Pant-Era. Does this album slap?
Yeah, oh yeah.
I would say it slaps for sure. I didn't write down a score because you buzzed my door while I was in the middle of doing that, so I don't know where it sits, but I mean, it's like it has a massive cultural impact.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
lots of 4 out of 5s, 4.5 out of 5s. Looking at just the Wikipedia page, it's fine. It's this is a very important album in 90s metal. The winds were changing, the times were changing in the 90s,
in 90s and beyond. I mean, even now. I mean, there's whether somebody, if somebody makes a metal album now, whether they know it or not, they have been in some way, whether it be albeit down the line, influenced by Pant-Era.
Yes. What if you're making like a really fucking weird avant-garde Captain Beefheart meets Gorguts mashup? Is that influenced by Pant-Era? The way you're looking at me, I'd fucking listen to that.
Yeah, like, I want to hear that.
I would absolutely listen to that. It would kill me.
Well, yeah.
I think it would, like, my brain would be leaking out of my ears a couple minutes in.
I mean, those are both bands by themselves. Listening to their albums all the way through is like, okay, all right, I need a palate cleanser of some kind.
I need to go pray or something. I think I need to go to church. Either of those. On two, like, it's kind of interesting because it's one of those things of like something going so far in one direction that it actually comes back around.
Right.
So I was gonna say they couldn't be any more different, but really they're very similar.
They are very similar.
At least, Obscura era Gorguts. They're like before and after Obscura, they've, gotten more tame. Because before Obscura, they were just a regular death metal band. And then after Obscura, they've been slowly kind of dialing back the Jesus fucking Christ, my brain, oh God, my brain.
I still want to hear Obscura Mask Replica.
That would be That's just playing both albums at the same time. And we're going to do that after we're going to do that after we stop recording. The way you looked at me is just like, we have the technology. Yeah. So I guess we'll have to do it.
We'll make it like 10 seconds in tops.
Oh yeah, for sure. What's your favorite song on Vulgar Display of Power?
That's difficult because there are so many great songs on here. As you said, one of the greatest songs ever is Walk, of course.
Yeah. Is it? Well, I didn't say greatest. I said catchiest.
Catchiest, sure. Okay.
Yes.
You're right, but there are different when I listened to it earlier today and yesterday, the song I enjoyed the most was Driven by Demons Driven. I mean,
by Demons Be Driven.
Yeah.
I can't enjoy that because it has the most. No.
Yeah, it does have the most of that.
It has. Like,
I just enjoy the riff.
Yeah, the riff is the riff's quite good.
Yeah.
I really like the main riff on Rise.
Yeah,
probably
that's
one
great.
of the thrashier cuts on the album. I think purely for the dynamic and the instrumentation, the lyrics weird me out a little bit on This Love, but just purely for like how it goes like so much in it. The first 2 minutes of the song is like a slow Metallica song. And then it turns into a Pant-Era song
right
a couple minutes in. And I like the transition there.
It has this riff that almost doesn't fit in the song, but it's still one of the best riffs I've ever heard on a guitar played.
Dimebag Darrell.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know that this fits here, but I want to back it up and listen to this again.
Taken far too soon.
Yeah, indeed.
Truly one of the finest guitarists that has ever lived. Just an exceptional guitarist. And Vinny's no slouch on the drums either.
No. He's also dead.
That was, when did Vinny die? That wasn't too long ago, was it?
Yeah, it was a handful of years ago. He died of a heart attack.
Yeah, that was 2018 is when Vinny died. Both the Paul brothers have passed away.
Yeah.
Paul was his middle name.
Right. Vincent Paul Abbott and Daryl Abbott as well.
I like how, I guess this must have been how he was credited, even still on this album. He was credited as Diamond Daryl.
Right. He was still Diamond Daryl at this point.
He was not yet Dimebag Daryl.
Right. And I don't know that he had invented the black tooth grin yet.
I'm not aware of what that is.
It's a drink. It's a booze drink with lots of booze in it.
Okay.
I can't remember exactly. I know it does include a splash of Coke for color so that we can pretend it's not 100% liquor.
I'm looking up the black tooth grin.
Yeah. I had a night with just drinking black tooth grins just for fun one time.
Named after a lyric from Sweating Bullets by Megadeth.
Yes.
It's a double shot of Seagram 7, a double shot of Crown Royal tossed over ice, and splashed with just enough Coca-Cola to give it a darkened hue. Is it good?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it tastes like whiskey.
I suppose.
Canadian whiskey.
I can see that being all right.
Yeah.
Probably nothing wrong with that.
You don't want to have like 10 of them.
No, probably not. But what medal are you bestowing upon this? Like It Matters?
Yeah,
for this album, but what medal are you bestowing upon it?
I struggled with it, and it doesn't have the same punch that it did when I was 18 years old when this came out. It still gets a gold.
Yeah, I think personally, I'll probably say a silver, but culturally, I would. This is something that, like, normally for me, my criteria for whether or not something gets a gold medal is, do I want to listen to this again? And would I recommend that other people listen to this? And I guess that kind of goes for silver as well. Silver is who's like, would I recommend this to someone else? But I don't know if I would listen to it again, but I would definitely recommend that if you are a fan of metal and you haven't listened to any Pant-Era at all, at least listen to this album.
Right.
Because it's an important band to be listening to. And obviously I still have some catching up to do in that department when it comes to like thrash metal bands. Although you've made me listen to at this point, I think at least one album from each of the big four.
Yeah, oh yeah, and some of the next 8 or whatever. And,
yeah,
and different. Yeah.
So
I'm trying to bring as much thrash.
I've done some catching up, and I've found some things that I like. Metalheads, music literacy, get on it. That's a shitty campaign slogan.
Yeah, we need to work on that.
If I'm gonna become the president of metal here in a couple of days, when the election happens,
I like that. Something
get out and vote, people. By the way,
something so poorly executed has the word literacy in it.
Something so poorly worded, and not snappy at all. Has the word literacy in it. If there's one thing American voters don't like doing, it's reading. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
don't make American voters read. So next week, I think I had something earlier and I've forgotten about it. So I will once again figure it out in the interim. There is that new Counterparts album that's out, but we literally just listened to a Counterparts album.
Right.
And maybe I'd like to talk about something else. I don't know.
Did we already talk about this new Counterparts album?
No, that was the one from 2019 we talked about. This new one came out like a couple weeks ago.
Okay, because I thought we did Oh, yeah, that's because we talked about Counterparts. I know we just did Counterparts. We got Counterparts coming out. We could talk about Counterparts. I'm like, I'm cool. Yeah, and then we did other stuff.
The word Counterparts has lost all meaning.
It has.
At this point. But I'll find something else for us to chat about. It will. Yeah, I don't know. We'll be in the aftermath of the Halloweens.
Sure.
I was gonna like maybe something spooky, but they will already have come and gone.
Right. It'll be November.
The scarier month.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'll figure it out. Maybe we'll talk about like an old Opeth album or something.
All right.
I'll figure it out and I'll let you know at the very least. I probably won't let the listeners know. But if I were to let the listeners know, it would be via the social medias, on the Facebooks and the Twitters. We've got pages there. If you would like to, go follow those pages. And I don't know, I'm slowly turning into John C. Reilly a little bit.
John C. Reilly, and just for a moment there, you were Barney from
The Simpsons. Which, by the way, completely interrupting what I was doing, but The Simpsons is doing like they're doing a whole anime episode in a completely different visual style as like a spoof of Death Note for some reason.
Because it's Treehouse of Horrors.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I was like, why are they doing this? I saw clips and I was like, that looks cool, but why? But yeah, it's Treehouse of Horror. But anywho, social media, Facebook, Twitter, get on it. And follow us there. Otherwise, just subscribe to our feed on whatever you're using to listen to us, whether it is straight from Libsyn, via their website, podcast source, or via your Apple Podcast app. Go ahead and do that. So thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations.
Literacy.